Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers who have been a part of our journey since the very beginning. Thank you, Folgers. We appreciate you so very much. And the journey just wouldn't be the same without you. So thank you. Also, big thank you to Dr. Snick, Justin Snicker, the sonic surgeon, for his contribution of his voice and his music for the intro that you all just listened to. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found anywhere that good music can be found. Sorry, itchy nose, people. Anyway, also big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind all of our banners and logos here at the show. So big thank you to him. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. He's got some amazing artwork, all in the horror genre, but can pretty much do any commission piece that you ask for. Again, guys, it is that time of year. We are nominated again for a People's Choice Podcast Awards in the category of Best Female Hosts. I know. Always great to be nominated, though. I know. We love it. We work hard, man. We work hard. Anyway, so you're going to start seeing a lot of stuff coming up in the near future with respects to different promo surfacing as to the other shows that will be coming up as well. So again, an honor to be nominated, and just look out for a lot of that. It's going to be a fun little adventure. So tonight we welcome the return of Brad Olsen, who is one of our favorites here on the show. And tonight we're going to be discussing the mysteries of Antarctica, the Grand Canyon, all kinds of fun stuff. He's very versed in so much stuff. We're just waiting for him to come in. It's always a lot of fun when he's here. He's just a wealth of information, and he's a lot of fun. So we wait. Hey, Bubbles, how's it going?
I'm okay. How are you? Other than the hair flying with the fan.
Oh, yeah. So
okay.
far, we're not there. I had to put the heat back on. I couldn't believe it. It's like,
yeah, I know. It's actually supposed to frost tonight. It's really cold here.
Kind of woke up that way this morning going, what is this?
Yeah.
The shenanigans going on. So
I'm so fortunate. I got a daughter who lives with me who brings me coffee in bed. So
that's
it was like,
nice. I know. I can't complain. I get breakfast served every day.
There you go.
Yeah, I know. It's a little bit.
I don't eat till hours after I wake up, so that doesn't work for me. She can bring me breakfast and it'll sit there.
Right.
I can't eat when I wake up. Hi, Samantha. Hi, Dolly. Hi, Wayne.
Yeah. Everybody's chiming in.
I'm just going to block my camera for 1 second because I have to move, but I'm still here.
I'm just going to take you out for a minute.
Thank you.
Okay, there we go. We'll give Bubbles a minute. So hello, Dolly. Every time I say that, I want to break out in song, but I'm not, because I'm just not going to subject all you kind people to my voice tonight. So anyway, and Bubbles is back. All right, there we go.
Thank you. I just had to move to the fan because it was blowing my hair this way.
That's always good.
It's like, really? Okay. Yeah, I moved stuff around in here, and now everything's off. Okay, it drives me crazy. You move something on your desk and then the camera's off, the lighting's off.
Oh, no, you can't be farting around with that. You can't be farting with it.
Well, I had to.
Sure. So I showed you this last week. While we're killing time, I'm just going to show you my cute little...
We're going to have show and tell every day for the month of May. It's the month of her birthday, so we're just going to let it go. They're adorable. Where'd you get them?
Amazon.
Oh my God. They have a lot of stuff for aliens.
I know they have some great stuff. See, this one here goes like this. Oh,
that is so funny.
And this guy here, okay, he's peace, man. Peace.
Yeah.
See?
Hi, Tamara.
I know, right?
Yeah. Hi, Roger. That's so funny. Well, most of the ornaments that I got you are from there. Michelle is actually going to have a Christmas tree this year, whether she likes it or not.
Black one, maybe.
That's okay. But I made sure that her ornaments are all in her theme. So.
I know. I'm hoping this year. Last year it was just like the never-ending renovation, restoration. Now we're in this house here. I think it could be a thing. Maybe. I need to change my profile picture. Yes. Okay. We like this one, but yeah, feel free.
Sure. We always like to be guessing. Tamara has a black Christmas tree. A lot of people carry that black tree from Halloween into Christmas. And it actually, I really like it when it's done black with white pearl.
No.
Ornaments.
I like pearls.
I love pearls. Like strands of pearls. You can get strands of pearls and then do like white and off-white ornaments on that tree. Is very, very chic.
If I have to
do it right.
I'm a Halloween chick personally. Yeah. So, I don't know.
I'm definitely a Christmas person.
We're just going to put a bunch of aliens on it. I'll be happy. But our guest is in the green room. So we're going to bring him in.
Hi, Ruth.
Here we go. There you go. Sorry, had to be made privy to
Brad, how are you?
We were just killing some time. Hey.
Doing great.
Christmas, Brad.
I heard.
Yep, Christmas.
I know.
Already? Wow.
Killing some time. I know. I don't know. I can be, Halloween year round, and I was just showing. I just bought these cute little guys. So I just think they're freaking adorable. One tells you to shush up, and one gives you peace out. So, peace and shh. So I don't know. I think they're cute. I like to, amusing myself, and they seem to be coming up a lot in conversation lately. We have a lot of guests coming on, and it's all extraterrestrial and it's disclosure, and it's like, oh my gosh! But it's exciting all at the same time. So tonight I thought we would just do a little bit something different because something else has been coming up a lot. Of course, it's probably been for the last year, but I just thought, there's so much rhetoric involved in just pretty much everything. And then you have what's really going on. And I know that you discuss this and you really research your stuff thoroughly. So I thought, okay, let's do Antarctica. Let's touch on the Grand Canyon because everybody's, screaming hoax with that. And so
Hoax with the Grand Canyon.
Oh, just wait, it gets better. Our good friends over at the Smithsonian. I love it. So where would you like to start, Brad? Because I know there's a lot of information.
Well, UFOs are part of our reality too. So there's elements of that in Antarctica. There are elements of ET agendas on this planet. I was just reading an email from the Farsight Institute that their remote viewers have detected a mothership in our solar system that is cloaked, so astrologers could not be able to see it through their telescopes. But it's very interesting because Lester Holt on NBC Nightly News just a few weeks ago said that the Pentagon released a report that they also detected a massive mothership in our solar system. So I think we're right on the edge of mass world disclosure.
I have to ask though, is it one of theirs or is it one of ours?
Always a good question to ask. Is it a fast walker or a slow walker?
Yeah.
I guess the jury's out on that one, Michelle, because it could be one of ours. It could be a secret space program craft. We've been backward engineering anti-gravity, zero-point energy since at least the Nazis right here over my shoulder. And they've had an incredible amount of technology that it's been compared to about 300 years in advance. That's what Ben Wood said, who was of the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, which was responsible for backward engineering craft and knowing for what they could glean out of it. And he said, we have a Star Trek future right now. But the fact that we're being denied knowledge of that is really, to me, highway robbery. I think the people of this planet absolutely have a right to know.
I agree with you, because
sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, the ancients had it right. I mean, this was in all the artwork. This was in a lot of, let's look at the petroglyphs. Just listen to the oral history of the indigenous people around the world. And then all of a sudden, Roswell happens and everything changes.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Here's a picture of Roswell behind my head.
Yeah.
I set up my new little studio here in my big warehouse in Yerington. There's our Roswell shot.
That's awesome.
The aliens laying out front and the military coming in.
Right.
Right up. Make up a cover story quick.
I was going to say, that just screams, just screams us. Sorry, Amelia, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Not at all. I was just going to say, though, they say massive ship. Are we talking size of a country, a continent? What are we speaking of here?
Well, the ones that I know, the dimensions are in Antarctica. Supposedly there are 3 motherships under the ice there that have been known about since the 1970s, when the letter agencies gave them the nickname Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria. I've got a pretty good location on one of them, which is in the German New Schwabenland area of all places. And I would gather to claim that they knew about that since the 1930s, about this mothership under the ice. And so the size of those are about 3 miles across.
That's pretty
so
big.
The size of a small city. Yeah.
So what are they doing there? Because, I mean, didn't we have like Operation High Jump or something like back in like around World War II times? And why do you think they went there? And why do you think, and they were chased out apparently. So do you think they were aware that there was something there back then?
Well, so Operation High Jump was ostensibly called a scientific mission that carried several battle ships from World War II and destroyers and aircraft carriers, submarines, helicopters, attack planes. Why do you need that on
Sounds
a
like science to me.
Yeah. with a well-trained army from several countries, not just the U.S. That was the cover story, but what really happened is they were going down to confront the Antarctica Nazis, because they did escape after World War II with all their highest technology. And that is why Admiral Byrd was tasked, because he was actually invited to go on the New Schwabenland expedition in 1938, 1939. And he declined because writing was on the wall that there was going to be a conflict with Germany. But they knew that he was the expert in this area, and he knew it very well. So he was tasked to lead Operation High Jump. And the alternative narrative of this story, and this is the evidence and the research that I'm doing right now. In fact, I'm going to do my 11th book about this subject matter and more, was that they went to confront Base 211 with Operation High Jump. They first were surveying around, and the Americans actually made good progress charting the area, not just in New Schwabenland, but elsewhere. And you can see on my map of Antarctica, I have New Schwabenland very top there in red. It wasn't that big of an area.
Right.
But that's where High Jump was basically congregating from both sides of South America, came up from Little America, which was the base that Byrd worked out of, met the other convoy, and that's when they started trying to find this New Berlin base, which is also called Base 211. But I've come to understand that those are actually 2 locations. So there are 2 bases. One was very secretive, very well fortified, and that's the New Berlin base, where Base 211 was more of an outpost, but also a military post. So day 1 of the Battle of High Jump, they knew where the location was, and they just dropped a couple bombs here and there, see if they could see any reaction out of the few outbuildings, and they didn't. But the next day, they were going in with all their big bombers, and they're just going to lay them out. If there was an underground base there, try to take it out. And that was the day all those planes and all those pilots went blip right off the screen, right about when they were entering the bombing zone, never to be ever heard from again. So they were using some pretty high technology there when they intercepted the planes. Also on the same day is when these craft came up out of the water and confronted the armada of ships led by Admiral Byrd. And they tried to shoot him down with no luck. They have a kind of force field around them that protects them from being penetrated. So in a show of force, they used what I could best describe as a direct energy weapon, a laser beam, and sliced one of the destroyers in half with a great loss of life, because everybody that went overboard would be dead within minutes of hypothermia. So that was all they needed to do to have Admiral Byrd call off the military assault of Antarctica for the Battle of High Jump. And they called the trip off 2 months into the 6-month mission, which is also peculiar.
Right. So do they feel that it was a military base that was there, or do they feel that it was an extraterrestrial base?
So
both.
Both. The backstory is that they were given a reptilian base in the 1930s, and it's in this New Schwabenland claim. Could it be base 211, or could it be the New Berlin base is unclear. But I'll tell you this, that after the confrontation at High Jump, Admiral Byrd was summoned to fly with just his radio man to the South Pole. And there is where the giant hole is under the ice. And he had discovered it several years before. So he knew it was big enough to drop a plane right into it, his plane. And that's what they did. They went into the hole just 1 degree, I think south of the South Pole. And that's when the voyage of Admiral Byrd's diary gets really interesting, because at that time he started to see way down under the ice shelf, probably on the continental face, but massive cavity that he could continue flying. So he's flying across Antarctica, but under the ice. It's so big. And then he saw, this is what is written in his diary. He saw rolling green hills. He saw, what is that, an elephant? Did a second check and asked the radio man, and they both confirmed it was a woolly mammoth. So flora and fauna from the Ice Age under the ice.
Really
so
cool.
After marveling, and Byrd felt compelled to continue on, but then 2 craft came wing to wingtip and started to escort him to their destination. And Admiral Byrd lost control of his plane. He just had to put trust. And so when they landed, he noticed the Nazi insignias, and he also noticed that they had a German accent. So I think they went to the New Berlin base, which was probably in conjunction with other ET races, because he was summoned solo. The radio man had to wait for him to go see a figure named the Master. And the Master knew that Admiral Byrd was a very high-ranking military man, and he wanted him to take back a message to his superiors in Washington, D.C. And the Master said, "We're very concerned with your government and soon the world having these nuclear weapons." So this was the end of 46. And what happened the year before was Nagasaki and Hiroshima and the testing at White Sands, which, by the way, all had UFO sightings around the time of the explosion, especially in White Sands. They saw him do it.
Right.
And so the Master said, "We just want to send you a message that we're living here in peace, but we're very concerned about these weapons of yours, and go back to your brass at the Pentagon and let them know that you can see that we have high technology." And on the way back, and so just to finish the story, he was escorted out. The same German guard pilots escorted him and the radio man out in their plane, and over the loudspeaker says, "Auf Wiedersehen," goodbye in German. So they let Admiral Byrd fly out to deliver that message to the Pentagon a couple months later. Before he got there, though, he went through Chile, and they were refueling after high jump and getting supplies, and he let a Chilean journalist on the ship gave an interview and said, "I'm not here to alarm people, but I just want to tell you that we will be confronted with an enemy that has the ability to fly pole to pole in very fast speeds in hours."
Probably less than that.
Probably less than that.
Probably less than that. It's hi Alex. I found it really, really bizarre. Michelle and I agree there are no coincidences in life. She had told me that we were discussing Antarctica, and I'm addicted to TikTok. When I need an intervention. I need an intervention. I do it to unwind late at night when everybody's asleep. I like to watch the comedies. Well, I was curious. There's a lot of UFO people on TikTok. There's a lot of paranormal on TikTok. And you have to be careful because there's a lot of fake stuff. But what do I come across but not other than you in a clip discussing Antarctica? And I'm like, yes. So I started sharing it. And then in honor of you with that, I started sharing a whole bunch of clips about Antarctica and everything that you're discussing tonight. So if our audience has been on our page and been on mine, then they know. But there's a lot of, Alex says, need proof. You know, there's a lot of, there's a lot to Antarctica, the lakes and the greenery and the forest. There's so much that they keep hidden from us. Why do you think they're doing this besides the obvious ET thing?
Well, you guys may have remembered another interview we did. I went down there 4.5 years ago. I took a sailboat down there to investigate all of these stories we've heard and trying to get hard evidence. Pictures, video would have been great. I had great cameras and stuff to go down there. Where we went, which is just the northern tip of the Palmer Peninsula, and I'll refer to my map here. It's that finger that sticks out in Antarctica. That's the Palmer Peninsula, and we left from Ushuaia, so it's the closest continental direction you can get there, and 90% of boat traffic goes down from Ushuaia, and most of the flights leave from Puerto Arenas in Chile. Because it's so close, and you can get to King George Island in one flight, and you can get to onto the continent with another flight, or as we did, by boat. So I set foot on ground. I got pictures right here on my cell phone I could show you. Definitely not a flat earth. There's no such thing as the ice wall. That's all mythology. I believe psyops put out by DARPA just to get conspiracy-minded people arguing among themselves over nothing.
They
never
need
going to
to
get
create
anywhere.
that noise, right? They need to create that noise so that you're not looking for what's really there.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Just don't look at the old man behind the curtain. Right? Anything else to argue about, that's fine. But just a little more on Admiral Byrd and how this all transpired.
Please. So fascinating.
So he warned us about these craft that could fly pole to pole at incredible speeds. Well, a very big event happened in 1952, and that was the flyover of the Capitol building. This is an image that was on newspapers across the country. Most people originally thought they were UFOs, ETs. The Pentagon had to basically brush it aside and move on without giving much information whatsoever. Nowadays, I would say 90% or more of any UFO researcher worth their salt will tell you that these were the Antarctica Nazis in a show of force, flying pole to pole at incredible speeds to make Truman sign a contract, basically surrender terms to the Fourth Reich. It became a third force. This is the untold history, which I do chronicle quite a bit in Beyond Esoteric, and this is the history we were never told.
On my desk from the last time.
Well, they say that the winners always write the history, and I'd say that's pretty accurate because history is just, well, Voltaire said, the Mississippi of lies. It is just how you want to shape it with bits and pieces that are known.
Right, right. But with all that being said, there have been a lot of military whistleblowers apparently that have come forward. Like, didn't Linda Moulton Howe have a couple of, I mean, hardcore, like buildings being found and being excavated? Or is this a whole other one of those myths?
That might be Corey Good, and then there's also Spartan A and B. But my favorite whistleblower of Linda, and I just consulted with her again in February when we both saw each other at Conscious Life Expo, was Brian S. And him, on his testimony and several interviews he's done with Linda, I have checked and double checked, and all his story really does make a lot of sense and checks out, and he can prove it with his service photos and pictures of Antarctica and being at South Pole. And so you definitely know the guy was there. It would be nice if he had one of his co-pilots or co-workers to corroborate his story, but he's the one who basically described seeing the giant hole under the ice. Right. And it's about 20, 25 miles away from the South Pole Station. So you could work at the South Pole Station like Eric Hecker did for a year and never be privy to it. Why would you be? Because it is meant to be top secret. But you know who is at South Pole and also has a building at McMurdo, the largest base in Antarctica, is the NSA. The No Such Agency that didn't even admit that they existed until the 1980s. They too were set up in the late 1940s by Truman, and their task was to cover up anything UFO related. So they're down there in Antarctica. They got an unmarked building in McMurdo. Everybody knows about, but nobody knows what's going inside it. And they're often seen coming and going through South Pole Station. Now, why would you be coming and going through there unless, of course, you're going to do some maintenance or security around the hole, right? That's the same hole that Admiral Byrd flew into to gain access to this inner Earth environment he spoke of.
It's unbelievable when you see things like when they show pictures of what it could have possibly looked based on, you know, what he spoke of and that. And there is actually a crew that's on TikTok who work in Antarctica, and they are a government crew from the States, and they're just footage constantly. And right now it's black. There's no sun until August.
Right. 4 months, total darkness.
So you would think that you'd notice something flying around in the middle of the day when it's pitch black out, but there's a light.
Yeah, but 25 miles away is beyond the horizon.
Yes. No, but I'm saying for them, because they show certain things, but they're not showing anything like that. They said, you know, this is a plane. This is what our plane looks like, but we're not. I wonder how much they see.
Yeah. Well, Eric Hecker was there for a year. He said he saw some things in the sky, couldn't really identify them. Some of a light nature, and I think he said some of a craft nature. But he's still disbelief that there was the hole under the ice. He doesn't like the Admiral Byrd story, doesn't like Brian S.'s testimony, and I can't really understand why. But he was privy to a lot of the operations and scientific work that was going on at the South Pole, and that is very fascinating in and of itself. Some of it may be a cover for the hole under the ice. For example, there is a big no-fly zone.
Yes.
Right around that same section. And that's what Brian S. They got in a little bit of trouble because they had to do an emergency rescue at a base that was directly across the no-fly zone, and they defied that order, thinking, well, that's kind of silly. This guy's life's in the balance. Let's just go the direct route. And they're coming back to see it again, and they were specifically said, do not fly through that. Why did you go through it the first time? And they did have to go around it just when it was coming into view again.
Wow.
It's really fascinating. I mean, it's one of the great mysteries, and I've looked on Google Earth many times. They have a mask on it, really sloppy. Photoshop job with a layer, just a big white rectangle, and you can see some conformities on the ice, but direct right angle lines of just, we're just going to not show you that.
Yeah. And if they have cloaking abilities, they could fly right over you and you wouldn't even know. Is there anyone else, Brad, who disputes Admiral Byrd's findings?
Well, some people don't take his diary as authentic.
Wow.
There's why. I've seen his son in interviews discussing it, and he does come across as very credible to me. And the backstory on how he got it right when his dad passed away, that it was willed to him, and so basically when Admiral Byrd got back from Operation High Jump, you'd think he'd be a decorated war hero. He was immediately taken into custody and debriefed for many weeks, I think even months.
Somebody believed him.
They did not like that quote with El Mercurio newspaper journalist that will be confronted with an enemy that flies pole to pole at incredible speeds. So he was definitely reprimanded for having a big mouth there, but also another one of those like Bill Cooper. You didn't see what you just saw.
That only makes him more credible.
I know.
Yeah.
And with Bill Cooper, he paid the ultimate price, and he was killed by police 2 months after 9/11 in front of his house.
That I didn't know.
He was calling out 9/11 as an inside job, so they needed to silence that guy.
And of course, now it's like everywhere, and everybody's saying it.
There was a lot of people saying it then as well, though. I mean, we knew in '93 that wasn't going to be the last time.
Right. But weren't we being set up for propaganda?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So what do you know about the buildings that are there in the hieroglyphs? Because there are some that resemble the Black Sun, for example, which we know for sure the Nazis had on one of their castle strongholds in Germany, like full on occult. Himmler is all about this. And they found symbolism down there. Allegedly, I'll say allegedly, because I didn't see it. I remember in the gray zone just touching some of this. And this is again a whistleblower thing, and he had sketched out a bunch of stuff. There we go. See, right there in the book, right there.
That's the Black Sun,
And that's on the floor of one of these buildings.
Yeah. Weaselberg Castle. This place.
There we go.
Oh wow.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah.
Right.
By the way, at the end of World War II, VE Day, Victory in Europe Day, this was going to be the master plan of Weaselberg Castle being right there at the tip of the spear. And then they were going to have 10,000 person occultic parade grounds around the castle.
Wow.
And just remember, when they lost the war, the fighting forces of Germany surrendered, that being the Luftwaffe, which is the Air Force, the Wehrmacht, the Army, the Marines, and the Navy. But the Third Reich did not surrender, nor did the SS, which were the elite troops, the Praetorian Guard, so to speak. But they were of their own political nature by then. And all the top Nazi officials, including Hitler himself, were of the occultic nature. They all met at the Thule Society. And then the SS had to come out of basically the brown shirts or the guards of the top rank, and they were the best trained and the best equipped and the biggest and strongest that they had. And many of them went missing at the end of World War II, presumably down to the New Berlin base. And because it was the mostly men who were leaving the Germany, they needed women, right? So they elicited 10,000 young women from what is now the Ukraine, but the Germans had gotten in there and at the end pulled out a lot of these beauties to live with the men down in the base 211 and the New Berlin base. Problem they had, and they did have to actually leave on their own after about a decade. One, they just didn't like being confined in enclosed space their whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really go to the surface too much and go up and get a suntan, maybe 10 days out of the year. But the big problem was when the new convoy of U-boats would come, one of the guys had a cold, and being down there, no viruses or any kind of bacterial life can exist in the cold. Mm-hmm. So everybody kind of builds up their non-immunity. So one guy would just show up with a little remnant of a cold, and it would just sweep through the colony. They'd all get sick because they're living basically at room temperature in the bases. And they just kind of got sick of that, and they wanted to get back to the land. So they mainly moved their operation to Argentina and Chile, where the Fourth Reich set up shop right after World War II anyways. But they were massive land holdings, because I went through South America on my trip down to Antarctica, and I'm studying maps and all I can about the area, all the esoteric wisdom that you could find, and finding that there are massive land holdings. The size of our small states here in America, the size of Delaware, the size of Connecticut, in Chile and Argentina. And those are big countries. And lo and behold, they all have German accents, and they act as micronations. So you can't fly in, you can't drive in unless you have permission. They'll shoot you down. So they have basically seceded from the countries that they reside in, just in the way that the Vatican City is its own country, right there in the middle of the city of Rome, in the country of Italy, but it's its own micronation. That one's just more out in the front, where these other ones in South America, there's another big one in Brazil in the rainforest that they moved their personnel to South America, and they lived their lives, and they had kids, and they're very wealthy down there. They're the only wealthy Europeans across the board. And there was a joke that I heard, because in Chile and Argentina, virtually all their indigenous population were wiped out, gone, including the Patagonian giants. And so then the Argentinians are thinking, well, who are we? Well, they're mostly Southern European immigrants.
I was going to say there's a lot of Italians that immigrated
to
Argentina. My dad was supposed to be one of them and chose not to. Thank God.
Wow.
Argentina.
Yeah, there's a huge population of Spanish, Italian, Greeks, Southern Italians. Just love it, because it's like a Mediterranean climate there too, in Chile and Argentina. So the joke is, well, if we're not Native American, well, who are we? And the joke is, we're Italians who speak Spanish and wish we were as rich as the Germans. And the Germans are rich down there. And there's little enclaves where you're like going into a little Bavarian town called La Falda. Another one we went to is Bariloche, which is right out of a German town on a beautiful lake in the Alps. And that is one of the presumed locations that Hitler went to after World War II.
Yes, exactly. There's many different stories with that one. And I believe it. I mean, you look at Rothschild Island is not very far from Antarctica. It would have been a great jump off point, but getting back to Antarctica for a moment, let's go back to, tens of thousands of years ago. Would there not have been an ancient culture there? Is this maybe not what everybody's finding down there?
Well, this is what really fascinates me the most. It's just hard to come up with some really concrete evidence. There are some pictures, but who knows if they're doctored in Photoshop. I think more reliably, there are some locations on Google Earth that they let you see. Some like a pyramid city, others are really expansive geometrical formations. And more recently, Google is starting to loosen up,
right?
Because recently you can go up and see S4 base outside of Area 51 now, and you can even see the big hangar doors that Bob Lazar talked about. And there's a little diagram that says S4 research facility. They're even admitting it now. So in that way, Bob Lazar is once again vindicated. But you can also go to a location, happens to be in New Schwabenland, and Michael Sala passed this on to me, and we've looked at it on Google Earth, a location that looks like an ancient city, but you're pretty far away, so you just see the right angles and the symmetry. You can't really get the detail. And of course, there's the pyramids poking out through the ice, and I've identified 3 locations. Can't sure if they're antediluvian of an ancient civilization, or if they're just what some navigators called nunataks, are just attractive pyramidal shaped mountains sticking out of the ice, and no real handmade notion about them. They're just, that's the way some mountains are shaped. But there's one in the Ellsworth range, one that's on Ancient Aliens and all the other shows that depict it, that's very symmetrical. Point to a fault. It's so perfect. And that one I would say is the best candidate for antediluvian civilization.
Yeah, because I mean, you seem to have the same MO when I say, ancient structures and pyramids all over the world are starting to surface. So much is buried under the ice, so much is buried underwater or submerged. And people, I mean, they're starting to find it now due to technology like, LiDARs, more sophisticated satellites and so on. So, I mean, the logical side of me says, well, we know we're not the first kick at the can on this planet. So, we probably won't be the last, but, who knows? But with that being said, eventually with climate change and everything else, things are melting. I mean, didn't Antarctica just lose in the last couple of years, a huge part of that ice shelf? So I think we're going to start seeing a lot more. I think they can only hide it for so long. If there's somebody there, government's trying to hide this, I think it's going to start working against them at some point.
Well, here's the paradox of the melting ice, and the area in the Palmer Peninsula where I went definitely has melting ice. And the chief of the Palmer base, which we got a tour from, he was an American, and said that when he first started coming out there in the late 1980s, that the big glacier on Anvers Island was so high you couldn't see the mountain range in the background. Well, now it's lowered where you could clearly see the mountain in the background. He also pointed out that across the bay there was a ice bridge over to, when it melted, they discovered a new island down in Antarctica. They're still discovering new islands.
Freshwater lake.
Yeah, just like on the Perry Reese map, they're depicted islands, but now they're covered in ice, so you don't really know. But here's the paradox, and this is why you don't see all our coastal communities underwater right now. In Antarctica, there are areas that are actually getting colder and accumulating ice. So Mother Nature, in her infinite wisdom, knows how to balance this thing out, because there are melting areas. There are rising ice areas, and there are also movements of animals, fishes, and more importantly, penguins. The cold weather penguins are called Adelie. They have actually had to, their colonies are shrinking because warm water penguins, the chinstrap and gentoo, they're moving into their terrain because the water's warmer. And then there's more of a fight for fish. And those other invasive penguin species are breeding like crazy, but they're not supposed to be there. So there's those kind of changes that are happening in the ice too. But as far as it goes with the craft, well, that's what Emery Smith told me, that every year one of those 3 big motherships gets more and more exposed from the melting ice. Maybe it's in an area that but we were able to locate that one.
No, I mean, there's photos of that one everywhere. We had a guest on not that long ago, Mary Joyce, and she wrote a whole book based on Google Images, where she spent a great deal. Yeah, it's called Spy in the Skies by Mary Joyce. And she's got some pretty amazing photos, and she's got a whole section just on Antarctica.
Really?
Yeah, that's
interesting. What did she show?
Well, you know what? I could send you a link to the show, because she sent a whole array of photos, and she just said, I just decided to people started posting pictures. So she got into some really heavy research, and the book is called Spy in the Skies. Yeah. And it is about just going on Google Earth and just finding this stuff.
Using the satellites.
Yeah.
The book,
see,
there's a lot of footage. It's a coffee table book. I grab it, but it's a floor beneath me. Otherwise, I grab it for you to see it. But
there we go.
It's definitely a coffee table book because it's large.
This is actually a German map.
Yeah.
I'd love to see her satellite images here. And I know where base 211 was right here. That's where the Schumacher Ponds are. And that's where Battle of High Jump took place.
Right.
There's another Nazi map that came to light, and it shows the submarine routes. And there's a whole other entrance into the inner world going down through the fjords of Antarctica under the ice and then into these channels. And in my presentation at conferences, I show what Antarctica looks like without the ice. And indeed, there are long, 100-mile long fjords that go deep into the Antarctica continent. So if you know where you're going and you could navigate one of these U-boats, boy, talk about adventure at the high seas.
Oh my God.
At least, I mean, there's even talk of access to, I'll go quote, Middle Earth, Inner Earth.
From Antarctica.
From different parts of the world. That's just one of them.
Yeah, that's just one. That's why I was asking. Sorry. From Antarctica. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more. And I think, again, you can only hide so much, but I think one of the big questions that get posed a lot, because this was like a special request show too. There's a lot of curiosity about Antarctica and what's going on there. And one of them, of course, is a power spot, Stargate, portal, whatever it is you want to call it. What are your thoughts on that? Have you heard anything on that? Or is this a speculation thing?
No, it's actually established science that cosmic energy, which is normally bombarding the Earth from the outside, but in Antarctica, near the South Pole, they have detected cosmic rays leaving the planet. The only place it does that.
Was it like a vortex?
Something. Maybe you mentioned portal, and supposedly.
Well, vortex says, I think Antarctica's got one, doesn't it?
Yeah, and a wormhole at both poles. One of them goes to Vega. I think the one in the North Pole and the South Pole, I'm not sure, but there is another pole-to-pole shortcut, a wormhole between planetary systems. So that's one of the reasons why some of the races, that they would prefer to be there, because then they'd be much closer to being able to leave the planet.
Wow. It's hard to fathom that being a reality, just being able to go. I mean, I don't know why we have power spots all over the planet, but it just seems like so much information has been suppressed. And when you think about it, all of these power spots where the ancients would build around power spots, and then all of a sudden, why were the ancients building around power spots? Obviously, there was something that we don't know today. And again, suppressed information. But to just be able to, seems to me like an unrealistic thing. And again, probably because we're so far behind in technology.
Right.
As common folk, just can't get our head around that. Right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so here's another question for you. Artificial intelligence. Do you think that Antarctica could hold this super artificial intelligence? Because, there's talk of that. Have you heard anything about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, not necessarily an Antarctica connection, but could be. I mean, it's in the cloud.
Right.
It could be anywhere now at this point.
Right.
If you have a supercomputer. But I was at a dinner party a couple weeks ago with Carrie Cassidy, and we talked about AI, and she considers it the largest existential threat to the longevity of the human race that we're confronted with right now, more than any virus or biological attack or however else, that the AI right now, it would protect us. It says it would, but there's already examples where it doesn't. Because you remember the first law of robotry, Isaac Asimov, the great science fiction writer, said the very first law of robotry has to be you can never harm a human. And there's already unmanned drones that have killed humans. Now, of course, they're being programmed from behind the scenes, but they're giving these autonomous policing kind of vehicles and aircraft the ability to select a target. So pretty soon, and I'd say we've already crossed the Rubicon on that. AI is already making the decision to do that. Now, AI takes many different forms. AI can be just a program. I was blown away just this last weekend for Mother's Day. My brother-in-law was showing me this AI that can write a poem for you. It can almost instantly give you your bio just by taking anything that's written about you on the internet, and it knew that I went to Antarctica.
Yeah, see, that's frightening.
So there's some things that are fascinating, but yeah, it can do computation very, very quickly, scouring the internet, getting all the information it needs to make that coherent decision or to write you a poem. And that's what
somebody has to program it, right? So there's a human behind there. So I guess it's a matter of, will it evolve on its own? Look at the Google AI.
Yeah.
What if it gets into the dark web? Then what? I mean, you can go 10 different ways to Sunday on this one and how wrong it is. But I'm going to tell you honestly, I'm more afraid of driverless trucks than I am of AI, because we have those beautiful trucks on our highways right now. But I wouldn't be surprised. They should put AI in that truck.
I don't know. Okay, so before we jump over to the Grand Canyon, where do you want to finish off with Antarctica? Not that we can't bounce back afterwards, but just because we're getting into the middle of the show now, so I want to hop over a little bit.
Yeah, just in conclusion, that it's a very mysterious continent because it's so unexplored in the great depths. There's still areas, especially some of those under the ice, that are uncharted.
Right.
But just less than a century ago, they didn't know the actual contour or coastline of Antarctica. High Jump actually surveyed quite a bit of it. So did the Germans. Now with satellite imagery, it's easier to look around and see what's there. And sometimes for the very first time. So I'd love to see that interview with Google with the Antarctica. Did she show some images?
Yeah, of what she found on Google Earth. I'll send you a link to the interview, and because we put them up. She sent us a sheet of them, and we put them up. It's out there to see. Yeah.
Because I bought some of them for my talks too, and it's just fascinating. And it seems like you're the first ones to be setting eyes on this, or people will send me stuff too, including the Grand Canyon. And there's the big mystery of this cave that was described in the Kincaid expedition of 1809 in the Arizona Gazette, not the Phoenix Gazette, because the Smithsonian wrote back and say, we have no knowledge of that newspaper article in the Phoenix Gazette.
Because that's Smithsonian again.
I'm here to ask, who is the
Smithsonian? A little way of denying any knowledge of it.
Yeah. You should ask, who is the Smithsonian before you even go there. Does anybody really know?
Well, who it's a good old boys club, and they decide what,
Yeah, but I'm saying, do we know really, honestly, who they truly are?
I don't know, Brad.
Well, they're disinformation in a way. They want to control the narrative. They don't like anything like giants or extraterrestrials or even the elongated skulls. They're in total denial that there were massive skulled people that lived in North America. But when I was down in South America, I went to museums where you could see the elongated skulls. They're on display. South Americans they're really cool with that. They have no problem with aliens living in Lake Titicaca and communicating, and their ancestors were some of these elongated skulls.
I understand that, but do we know who they are? Who they
Smithsonian
are? That's what I meant by that question. We really don't know who is behind that.
Right. Well, do you know who the bankers are of the world? Do you know who the real controllers are of the world? I say they're one and the same. They're pretty much the same ilk. And the whole idea is they want to keep us in a box. They do not want the human race to have this kind of information. It exposes them. And it shows the evidence that there's quite a different concept of this world and a much longer history than they're willing to admit. So the whole notion of Smithsonian Gate was finding these digs, and I describe it in Beyond Esoteric, in not too far from where I grew up in the Midwest, in Lake Delavan, Wisconsin, just about 100 miles away from where I grew up. And they were doing a dig in the late I think early 20th century. And the Smithsonian just shows up and says, well, we're going to take over here, and we're just going to take all your findings. And they said, well, wait a minute here.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, we're doing our research. We're doing a due diligence. We want to get this out there. And they said, well, they're kind of like the FBI flipping the badge. Well, we outrank you and we're taking over. And said, well, at least let us know what you find. So, oh yeah, sure. We'll let you know. Never heard from him again. No. So there is and I even call it the Southern Wisconsin epicenter because there were so many, and not just Delavan. That's just the most famous because it was done by professional archaeologists.
Right.
And they had photos, and even out in the Channel Islands of California, the guy was digging up massive graveyards, and they're as old as the Ice Age because on the Channel Islands in Southern California, they were roasting dwarf woolly mammoths, which only existed during the last Ice Age.
Oh.
When you could walk out to the Channel Islands because the sea levels were much lower because there was so much fresh water locked up in all the glaciers around the world. So, and I'm in one of my presentations, my workshop at Contact in the Desert, I'll be at Mount Shasta Summer Conference over the solstice, and I'm about to fly out to Journey of Truth. I think there are still tickets available in Grafton, Illinois this next week. I'll be out there, and I'm speaking on Monday doing Antarctica, and probably portions of my workshop would show the maps of the ancient sea kings, showing Antarctica.
Wow.
Not just decades, but centuries before it was discovered.
I love that.
Was it always frozen?
Well, according to these maps, but one of them, it's called the Bocce map, actually shows the channel between the two land masses. That is Western Australia is largely the up here again, largely the Palmer Peninsula extending down directly below it. That's Western Antarctica. Eastern Antarctica is that big solid landmass with the polar plateau on it. And that's more presumed artifacts or antediluvian civilizations, including the pyramids I described, are in the Palmer Peninsula area, including what is presumed to be one of the outposts, not necessarily Atlantis itself central, but Atlantis was a whole worldwide connection. So maybe one of the colonies of Atlantis.
Well, you're getting into like Lemuria and things like that. The whole
continent.
I
mean, that's the newer continent that has just shifted down.
Yeah.
In the last 10, 20,000 years has been moving the last pole shift. That one moved down there where Antarctica broke off from Pangaea around India and Australia.
Yes.
And it has animals in the fossil record that match. those two countries.
That's crazy.
So that's how they know that it was once one massive continent, and through plate tectonics have shifted around continents to their present location. But if we were to have another pole shift event on Earth, and turns out they're a lot more frequent than people think, every 20, 25, 30,000 years, which in geological time is not much. But if we were to have another one, our world map would completely change. In fact, the way that the magnetic poles are moving at breakneck speed, for example, the magnetic South Pole is already off the continent of Antarctica. Similarly, the magnetic North Pole, which had typically been in the Hudson Bay area, is now racing across the Arctic Ocean towards Siberia.
Wow.
So that would indicate how the planet would shift. So that would make Australia the next Antarctica, and then Antarctica would warm up and those glaciers would melt, and we'd see what's below the ice. and presumably it would start harboring plant life of its own and could become a fertile continent once again. Because in the fossil record, there are ferns, there are tropical animals and plants, and even dinosaur species that have only been found in Antarctica.
Yeah, but we'd lose koala bears.
Well, I don't know about that.
If Australia freezes over, where are the koalas going to go?
Oh,
from
boy.
Australia, duck-footed platypuses. We don't want to lose them either.
No,
They have so many animals in Australia. They have loads of different animals. Like it just, but anyways.
Down under. I have a quick a comment, I guess. So for me, it's a question. Amelia, can you get that?
Yes, Chris says there is evidence of Egyptian influence in the Grand Canyon.
That's not deemed hoax by the Smithsonian.
Not yet.
Well, it is.
Oh, it is. Yeah, they tapped
They wrote a letter and say we have no knowledge of the article and the expedition of G.E. Kincaid in 1909 from the Phoenix Gazette, which there's no such newspaper. It was the Arizona Gazette. So they do know about it, and they were part of it. They were in the article that said this was a sponsored trip of the Smithsonian. So right before the Kincaid party, because he was actually the second to go down the full length of the Grand Canyon, and I think he got tipped off by the original expedition. But there are newspaper articles where G.E. Kincaid finished a trip in Yuma, Arizona, and there were also reports of gold being discovered in the Grand Canyon. In fact, there are newspaper articles where they were mining not too far away from Marble Canyon. And when I was coming back from Sedona last month, I rerouted a different way so I could see Marble Canyon, and that's where the gold mine is. So where there's gold, there are ancient civilizations. Some of the oldest civilizations on planet Earth are in South Africa. And my colleague Michael Tellinger has done quite a bit of research, and he's told me all about it, that these are the ancient gold mines of the Anunnaki. Well, okay, let's get to Grand Canyon. Yeah. So G.E. Kincaid was doing this sponsored trip and came upon the Crystal Creek. I've identified where that is located, and I had the great honor and privilege of doing a press trip down the full length of the Grand Canyon in 2003. 21 days, full length. Oh yeah, we saw the Dobie Indian cliff dwellings up on the cliff in one location. We went right by the mouth of the Little Colorado River, where just upriver is the sacred Hopi Sipapu, emergence point of the Hopi people. We saw the black basalt of the inner core of the earth. There's only a few locations in the world that you can see the inner core of the earth, and then every single sedimentary layer above it. If you wanted to go study the Jurassic era, you can find that in the Grand Canyon, and dinosaur bones and everything else. So it's super fascinating geology lesson to take a trip down. But of course, everywhere I wanted to go, up to see the Seepapoo on the Little Colorado, or up the Crystal Creek to go look for the Kincaid Cave. They would let me go, but I knew where they were, and I was within a mile or so. And
so close.
But probably with the Kincaid Cave is they had to avalanche it to cover it up, because it was discovered quite easily from the Grand Canyon. And of course we didn't see it and it wasn't pointed out, but I know the general area where it was. Now, more recently, one of Dr. Michael Sala's whistleblowers named JP, he said, and he was on an interview with Michael Sala, and I did the follow-up with what I'm telling you guys about, being down there and my own research into it. But JP went on a military mission, and they went into this cave system and saw many of the artifacts. They're still there. And while there was reference to Egyptian-style mummies, they didn't actually say Egyptian artifacts in the Kincaid article. But what they did say is that there was a big Buddha-like statue with lotus flowers in its hands. I think the article said that they were of a Far Eastern influence.
Yeah, I think there was like an Isis
also be
Buddha, Babylon,
because just upriver, only about 20 miles, is the Marble Canyon, where they found gold, and where they were mining gold 100 years ago. And then all of a sudden, when Grand Canyon became the second national park in this country, shut down all the mining operations, and they probably blasted over that hole too in Marble Canyon.
Right.
But the Egyptians were always known to go to a faraway land to collect gold, because what is King Tut's face mask? Pure gold. They worked in gold all the time. So they would go to the land of Punt, which a lot of people thought was Australia, because also in King Tut's tomb were boomerangs, Australian boomerangs. The only two places in the world where there are boomerangs is Australia. The Aboriginals use them to hunt, and the tombs of the pharaohs in Egypt. But Australia doesn't have the veins of gold that they would have needed from the land of Punt. So now there's another idea that this was actually the Southwest.
Right. Amelia, can you get that one?
Chris says there is a tower of Set in the Grand Canyon. What's up with that?
Yeah, there are place names like that. There's Osiris, Mesa, and a lot of place names named after Egyptian deity. Set is an Egyptian deity.
That's right.
And it's interesting because it's all around this Crystal Canyon area, which is off limits. You can't fly a drone there. You cannot hike in there. You cannot land your boat in the Grand Canyon and go hike up it. There are certain areas in our national parks where humans are not allowed. They'll arrest you if they catch you, and they'll make it very difficult to get in and out.
Well, that makes you wonder why, doesn't it? Like, I don't know. I know there's a story of a Mormon man who married a Hopi woman, and he had found a lot of these discoveries. And the story goes that the Hopi blinded him. And basically the only reason they didn't kill him was because he was married to a Hopi woman, and said, if you ever speak of the things that you saw, we will take your tongue out. So,
wow.
That's a little harsh.
That's not savage at all.
Well, he just sort of went, exploring and found it. So it makes you wonder, going back to, again, all of this oral history, this just being one tale of what exactly is there. This far supersedes like government or military. This is something like really spiritual that a whole culture stands behind. And of course absolutely. We know the Hopi, right?
Yeah.
So,
the Hopi were the original inhabitants of the Colorado Plateau, the whole Southwest.
Yes.
And they were called the Anasazi by the Navajo, the Diné, who came in much later. They are genetically traceable back to Siberia and northern Canada. So came over the land bridge or down the coastline and then moved inland. And they were the invaders. Anasazi to the Navajo means ancient enemy. Clifford Mahudi was a Zuni elder, and the Zuni are related to the Hopi. And he had to school me, and he says, we do not like, he called it the A word, like we use the N word.
Yeah.
It's that bad.
Wow.
So their name is Ancestral Puebloans, and they were the original inhabitants of the Southwest who came out of this emergence point in the Sipapu on the Little Colorado River. And their people had been residents of this area for thousands of years. Clifford Mahudi even traces their lineage all the way back to Lemuria, that when Lemuria sank, that's how long ago the Zuni, the Hopi, and the ancestral Puebloans got here.
Well, even the Aztecs were said to have made their way north into the United States along that whole area.
Those were much later migrations of people.
Yeah. Wow.
Different people. You can even see the Hopi were a little bit smaller. The Apache and Navajo have a little bit longer faces.
Right.
Just like the Plains Indians, very distinct look in their facial features, and a little bit of Eskimo in them too, their look and features, whereas the ancestral Puebloans more look like the Mayans, more look like Central American native people.
Right. So also in the Grand Canyon, stories of giants as well. We know the Smithsonian likes those stories, don't we?
Oh, they love gobbling up all the mummies and giants, and get rid of them.
I wonder if they're storing it. They're storing all those skeletons, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're in their mega mansions and on their, super yachts.
Or waking up in their stasis chambers in Antarctica and
there you go.
Ready to claim this planet back for the home.
But
the giants were described in the Kincaid article as being mummified. And so that's really interesting because the next state over, Nevada, where I'm at, right above my head,
there are mountains.
This is the land of giants out here too. Back during the last ice age, which is the Pleistocene era, when there were still woolly mammoths and giant sloths on the North American continent, there were also giants. And there's an area, and I happen to be in one of the southernmost fingers of an ancient lake called Lake Lahontan, which was an ice age lake that spanned halfway across Nevada, up into Oregon, and into California. And all along the high level mark, and there's just right here in my valley, you can see the striations of all the lake levels, especially really prominent out on Pyramid Lake. Because all the rivers in Nevada flow into the Great Basin. So in my valley, it's the Walker River. Just over the hills, it's the Carson River. And above that is the Truckee River that flows into Pyramid Lake. They all flow into their own lakes, and they just evaporate and disappear. That's why it's called the Great Basin. But in the last ice age, when so much of the fresh water was locked up, it became a great lake. And at the high level mark, in caves like Lovelock Cave and only about 40 miles as a bird flies from where I'm at, Spirit Cave, where they found mummified giants. There you go with your mummified giants again, just like the Grand Canyon. So there was a high civilization in North America. The Smithsonian does not want to tell that story at all costs. They'll destroy evidence. There's reports of them taking the giant bones and artifacts and just dumping them in the ocean. Just get it out of here. Out of sight, out of mind. So they're scrubbing our history.
But they haven't scrubbed the one in Italy because there's still photographs of that archaeologist with those giant bones.
Oh, they're around the world.
Yeah.
But you'll never see the mainstream media talk about it, and whatever avenues in the scientific community or educational community will not talk about it either.
It's so ridiculous in so many ways, though. It really is. Why can't they talk about it?
Oh, why can't we talk about UFOs? So there's
I know
agendas. That's why agendas.
But giant skeletons to me is a lot easier to discuss than beings from outer space for a lot of people, because to say we evolved from them is not far-fetched. Like, I just think that it's an easier conversation to have. I don't understand why there's so much secrecy to it.
Because it goes against what's in the good book. That's why. Oh. But mind you, they mentioned, David Goliath. It's not like he's not there technically. But we'll leave it there for 1 second. We need to do a station and sponsor ID.
It's just frustrating.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
There already. I know.
Yes. Unbelievable, right? When it gets heated, we know that we're almost at the end here.
I know.
You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 105.3 and 107.7 FM. Right now, and in archive, we are on Roku. So if you're out there watching us live, we want to say hello and welcome. Please, we hope you stick with us and know that we continually to bring you the best guests like we have tonight, who keeps coming back because we love him so much and because he's so knowledgeable. Our guest tonight, on that segue right in, our guest tonight is Brad Olsen, and we are discussing the mysteries of Antarctica and the Grand Canyon. If you're just tuning in, no worries, because you can stream our archives on any platform that you normally use. Don't forget to share us with your friends, though. We want to give a big thank you to the amazing people at Folgers Coffee for sponsoring our show right from the beginning and continuing to sponsor us. We love you and we thank you. We're so grateful for you. Also, a huge shout out and a huge thank you for our intro and outro to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker. He is an award-winning composer and musician, and he lends his voice to both our intro and outro. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp, and check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Now, you know where I'm going with this. If you're watching us right now on YouTube, or you're watching us on a Facebook Live, or you're just watching us on our Facebook page, please give us a like, hit subscribe, and don't forget to share us, because Tamara will come after you.
Not Tamara.
She's in chat, so I can say
She's
that.
Already on. All right,
but
that's it.
Yes, like and share.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's pick up where we left off. So giants in the Grand Canyon again. I understand Amelia's,
frustration.
Well, just to pick right back up from there, I think that we have been conditioned through religion from the time we're like this big, as to what our history should be. And a lot of our history has been hidden, and a lot of our history gets destroyed. And we know that, said museum has, I think Brad mentioned this on the show the last time, just dumped them into the ocean, bones and everything else. So out of sight, out of mind. But it's still there. Things are surfacing. So, but there's also pyramids. Allegedly, there are pyramids in the Grand Canyon as well. So
there's one in Antarctica, right?
Three
locations
identified.
Yeah.
But in Grand Canyon, I think it is just an attractive mountain. But there are all these place names there, and as well as Zoroastrian and other Far Eastern. Don't just get hung up on the Egyptian place names or the Egyptian artifacts. That's just part of it. There's other place names of Far Eastern location, and what was evidenced in the article was that there was some kind of big Buddha like deity right at the main entrance, with all these corridors that went in different directions. And certainly the Smithsonian was there grabbing what they could, but it is a massive cave system, as I was saying on Dr. Sala's show, that not a decade ago, some people from the military corps got into the cave system and they lit off flares, and they had people watching for where the smoke would come out. And on some occasions it would be 50 miles away that the orange smoke coming up through some kind of vent hole. So it's a massive cave system down there. And you have to understand the geography and geology of the Grand Canyon. So it had been a big plateau, and up higher in the state of Colorado is the headwaters of the Colorado River. I was there in December driving my dad to Vail for knee surgery, and that's just 50 miles away from where the water comes down on this side of the Continental Divide. Many other rivers and streams connect to it. But I was reading on the placard when I went to Marble Canyon that they presumed before the last pole shift that it had gone down more into New Mexico. But then some kind of earth shaking had happened. The Colorado River continues to rise. So it's over a mile up there. And then at some point, the river connected and it stayed in the river and flowed through in such a way that it went down to every single geological era. But if you look at a topography map of Arizona, it's so unique because it's kind of a tipsy-turvy state, but then it rises up to the Grand Canyon. Then right in the northern part is just this deep chasm, the deepest canyon in the world, that up until 50, 60 years ago, there was no bridge that crossed it. It was Lee's Ferry. You would have to get across and at great loss of life because sometimes that river is really flowing fast. So finally, a ferry capsized with a Model T Ford on it and killed some people. And that was the last one. It was 1928. Wow. And that same year, they built the first bridge called the Navajo Bridge near Lee's Ferry. I just drove over it last month, back from Sedona. And for 600 miles, it was the only place you could cross. So, literally from Colorado till all the way down to Needles, California, could not cross the Grand Canyon. Impossible. So it was after they built the Navajo Bridge was largely responsible for the populating of Arizona. Now, Arizona was the last of the lower 48 to become a state. That was Indian territory. That was given to the native people. Another fork-tongued broken treaty by the white man. Yeah, with his long knife, a sword, and a fire stick, the gun.
Right. Yeah. Sad but true. But true. Now, wasn't there also a tale of disappearing stones, or was it mountains in the Grand Canyon? That was this big mystery for like eons, and then somehow it was recently, I'm sure I read that at some point, disappearing
stones. No,
rocks,
I'm not sure of that.
Stones. Right. Okay, I'll leave it there.
And other national parks. And David Pilates does the 911 missing persons and has documented hundreds of people going missing in national parks. Sometimes in these forbidden zones, they go in, never come out.
You've commented
also,
on
like little kids just walking off to go take a pee or something, never to be seen again.
Right.
And when you're camping, you're not that far, right? Like it's trees, like you're there. So
I don't know, but you know what? I would love to have you on to do a segment on that. We've had requests for that too.
Yeah, we're just looking for another excuse to bring him back.
Yeah. August 3rd.
We just put the next date.
We shall.
What are you doing tomorrow at 11?
We did. I have a couple of comments and questions for you.
Okay, Roger Garza. Hi, Roger. Does Brad know how the red rocks were formed and when?
Do you mean the red rocks of Sedona, or there are red rock areas all across the whole Southwest? There's an area in Colorado that looks just like Sedona called Delta. Went there with my dad a few years ago. Couldn't believe it. Well, it was all created through the water coming down from the Rocky Mountains over the Colorado Plateau. That's why southern Utah is so dramatic, because it's kind of at the edge of the high country spilling over. And so everything from Sedona to Grand Escalade to Zion National Park, we're all carved from erosion. Grand Canyon as well. But the Grand Canyon kind of comes up to a lip. It's quite high up. Just last month, I was driving through 8,000 foot pass with snow on all sides. and so then the water would kind of flow around it and create these rock formations. Some places like Monument Valley in Arizona are really dramatic with just the straight up mesas. In a lot of movies and stuff. That's all on Navajo land. The Navajo have the largest reservation in America. It is the size of some of the smaller states. It's that whole beautiful upper northeast corner of Arizona, and in the middle of it is the Hopi Reservation. And the Hopi Reservation are the three mesas. And when I was working on my book, Sacred Places North America, I drove up to Old Arabi, and that is ancestral Puebloan, just like the Zuni Mesa in New Mexico, where Clifford Mahoody's from. Old Arabi is the oldest continuously inhabited settlement in North America, thousands of years old, and they still have some of the old adobe homes that people live in. It's quite remarkable.
Wow. No kidding. Well, I have to ask the obvious. UFO activity. Yeah, I know. Someone has to ask it. Might as well be me.
No special reason why the Southwest would have more than others, but not too far away and on the Colorado Plateau is Dulce, the Archuleta Mesa with the base down below it. And I do describe it in Beyond Esoteric, the strange account of Phil Schneider, another whistleblower who was also suicided. And so, but the other thing about the Colorado Plateau is the most amount of lightning strikes. So it's a very conductive environment for the monsoons to come through in the summer and even all year round. You could have lightning strikes up there.
He was referring to Denver.
Okay. The Red Mountains.
We're drying up. I just crossed it last month, and it looked at normal height to me based on the trees and the grasses that were down there. Now, a month ago, there was a declaration that we got to save the Grand Canyon. Well, yeah, they dammed it up quite a bit. The dam in Page, Arizona, Lake Powell is huge. And it's way down. And then, of course, Lake Mead, held up by the Hoover Dam near Las Vegas. That's the largest reservoir in America. And it's also way down. It has not overflown since 1983 when Ronald Reagan was president. There's even a placard I read saying that it's been down. So it was way down. It was down so low last summer. They called it dead pool, which means the water is so low that there's not enough pressure to create the hydro electricity. It goes to Las Vegas. And one of the big stations down below the Grand Canyon blew up last summer from the lack of water pressure to run its turbines. And my friend Adam Baum lives up near Lake Powell, and it was close to dead pool at the end of last summer too. We had a monster winter out west here, including in Colorado and Utah. So that is the source water, and they're filling up. Fortunately, we've diverted a disaster. If it would have been another heavy drought year, then they were talking about cutting off Las Vegas of water. Just sorry.
Wow.
Well, if there's nothing there, there's nothing there. But there's even a proposal now to reduce the water supply of all the cities.
That's crazy.
That are absolutely dependent on that. Could you imagine
the Vegas Strip?
The Boston doesn't work. Yeah, the Bellagio.
The Bellagio's done. They consume the most, don't they? Them and
Los Angeles gets a bunch. Phoenix gets some.
Yeah.
But all the communities south of the Grand Canyon, there's Lake Havasu, which always maintains their water height because there are houses and businesses on Lake Havasu, including the old London Bridge. They reconstructed it there. It's actually pretty cool to check out.
God.
A whole little British village on one side.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. But because Yeah, they have homes there. They're the one reservoir that always, by law, keeps it at the lake level. But all the other ones below and above Lake Havasu do fluctuate quite a bit.
Wow.
Well,
That
we've got
Vegas trip
we've got
sucks
El
up a
Nino
lot.
coming this year, so I think the southern U.S. and northern Mexico should get rain, but everything up northern U.S. and Canada, it's going to be a hot one.
We're in another wet cycle, and that's good.
Yeah, you guys down south.
One year ago, I had the opportunity to go down to San Felipe, Mexico, right before a conference in Sedona. So I had a car to take down a refrigerator and help my friend out. And he's like, I'll show you all around. And that's not far away from the Colorado River Delta, where it empties into the Sea of Cortez and the Gulf of California. Nobody likes Cortez anymore. They renamed it Sea of California.
All right, why not?
Lord.
It would not do good to the Mexican people at all.
No.
I don't like that guy. So when I was driving back out exactly 1 year ago, I routed myself through the Delta, and it's gone. It is an environmental catastrophe. It had been one of the largest desert river deltas in the world, and they've cut out all the water, and it's dead.
Wow.
It's a catastrophe. As Colorado River flows, and I was right on the border where all these migrants are coming into the country right now. This is invasion at the border, right there near Yuma, Arizona. It's like a DMZ. I mean, the fence is there, but they're just opening the gate basically. But by the time the Colorado River gets down and creates an international boundary line with Mexico, this for about 100 miles in southwestern Arizona, that is the country line. And there are a couple farms in Mexico that have their straws into the water, but by the time it gets to the Gulf of California, there's nothing left. And this is one of the biggest rivers in the world.
Yes, it is. I never thought about that.
Disgusting.
Them just walking right through it.
It all gets sucked up with straws all along the way.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
That's some scary,
That's going to be a thing.
Thirsty world out there, and we need water to grow crops. So
yeah, but if you would shut down a few of those hotels, just say the Vegas Strip.
Well,
I'm still laughing at that because you got Luxor with the Nile River, you've got the Bellagio with a fountain that just goes all the way around, and then you got the other one, the Venetian. You've got the gondola rides. Yeah. That's a lot of water.
It's very excessive.
People that need to take a shower and drink water every day.
I know.
There's thousands of people in each of those hotels. I've been there. I do love Vegas, I have to say. I do love it.
It's excessive. But it kind of goes back to that
Wonderland.
That conspiracy theory about how you have the world's elite, buying up property, especially with a lot of underground reservoirs. And as everything starts to dry up above ground,
water's essential.
It's the commodity, right? So, okay. So we'll go back and bring this up. This is what Roger was talking about.
Red Rocks Amphitheater, Denver. Yeah.
Okay. Erosion, just water, ice melting, flowing down off the front range of Colorado. I've been to Red Rocks Amphitheater, just outside of Denver, in Morrison, Colorado. I was looking for the Morrison Hotel on the cover of the Doors album. Not there.
Not there.
There's something with the name Morrison and hotel in it, but it's not it. It's not the picture. Right. So I had to look it up in Wikipedia, and it was in LA. In Skid Row, and they didn't even have. They just set up the photographer and went running in there when nobody was at the front desk and took that iconic picture in the Morrison Hotel for their album cover, just like Abbey Road. Just
landmark area. Yeah,
this iconic image for all time.
Not for Brad, not there.
But my colleague Alex Collier lives there, and he says he can hear the music from the Red Rock Amphitheater in the summer.
Right.
Oh, nice.
That's very nice. I love that. Okay, another. I'm this question here. I'm thinking she means skinwalker.
Oh yeah, skinwalker.
Okay.
Doesn't what's his name from Star Wars? People are
Skywalker
gonna kill
Ranch.
me. Yeah, he does have a ranch.
George Lucas does have one.
Yes,
Yeah.
George Lucas.
Oh, that's Skywalker Ranch in Novato, Northern California.
Did you mean
there. I'm driven
Skinwalker?
by you can get as close as the guard station at Skywalker Ranch.
Right.
I think she meant Skinwalker as well,
but
though.
Skinwalker Ranch I've also been to, and that is out in the Uinta Basin in northeastern Utah.
Right.
And another colleague, I make friends a lot, especially in the field, get conferences and film shoots. And so I met Ryan Burns filming for a TV show called Mysteries of the Outdoors. Right. And we were both talking about Chaco Canyon, and we met in the hotel the night before. Hey, you're here for the show? Yeah, me too. Became great friends, and he's a real estate developer, and he bought the property right above Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, and he calls it the Space Wolf Research, same acronym, SWR. And he's allowed me to camp out a couple times. So I've been there. I know the lay of the land, and I saw some very mysterious lights at night. Got to say, it's there is something to it. And then there's just 20 miles away, as a bird flies, is the Blind Frog Ranch.
I've seen it.
Yeah, he speaks at conferences too. I've gotten a chance to meet him and hear his talks. But that's like the good juju ranch.
Yes.
But Skinwalker, that was named by the Apache, who are affiliated with the Navajo, who also have a similar legend of these incarnate beings walking and stalking the earth. And to those people, that's like bad juju to go there.
They don't even like talking about it, do they?
No. They stay away.
Right.
To this day. They think it's bad juju. Don't go there. Bad spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Where Blind Frog is okay, and there's petroglyphs all around that area, and it's really beautiful.
Right.
And there's a similar one near Sedona called the Bradshaw Ranch, and that too is filled with paranormal sightings. And I know some of my friends there do Sedona UFO tours,
right? And
they take them out where you can overlook Bradshaw Ranch, and I've seen the footage, just amazing stuff. Coming in and out, flaring up, doing all kinds of things around the Bradshaw, as well as in the skies above Sedona, Arizona. So that whole state and Utah, good chunks of it are paranormal hotspots, as well as testing grounds. So the new Area 51 moved out of Nevada, and they went to Dugway, Utah. And so that's the new place where people go and do sky watches.
Right.
As close as you can get to Dugway, just like in Rachel, Nevada, the closest town to Area 51. Wednesday night, I've been out there a couple times, but haven't seen anything conclusively myself. But some of the people I went with stayed up really late, and they swear they saw something around 3:30 a.m.
So what did they see? A craft? Or
it was lights kind of coming out of that area. Could have been a drone. Could have been one of ours.
Yeah.
One of ours or one of theirs.
Right. Why do you think, the paranormal and UFOs, I know I've seen connections, 20 years in the field. I've seen many connections between the two. So you just don't realize it early on, and you start seeing a lot of similarities. Why do you think that is, especially in some of these areas, such as Skinwalker Ranch? There's also Stardust Ranch, which, that was the one where the story where the guy was going around with a machete and killing grays because they were coming in and attacking them, he and his wife. It was up for sale for a long, long time.
Where is that?
Neck of the woods.
Where did those bodies go?
He says he decapitated a gray, and he watched two more come down and grab it because he went for it to grab it like evidence, because people, thought he was just losing his mind. And he watched him come down and just snag it. And they just.
Yeah, that's sad, because that ruins his credibility.
Stardust Ranch.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah.
Where's it located?
I think it's out your neck of the woods somewhere, because people were confusing it with with Skinwalker Ranch. Let me just see if I can Google it. 1 second.
Yeah.
Stardust.
What about New Orleans? You guys got haunted hotels or anything paranormal?
Everything in New Orleans is haunted.
We're in Canada.
Oh my God. Yeah, we stream out of New Orleans. Hold on. Stardust
we're
Ranch.
In Ontario. Yeah.
Stardust Ranch brothel. Okay. It looks like it is Nevada. Anything that Stardust Ranch is in Ghost Ranch. Oh, Stardust Ranch. Yeah. Oh, no, wait. Extraterrestrial activity in Rainbow Valley, Arizona.
Not far.
So
there's
that
Arizona again.
There you go.
See? Okay. Yeah, I did not know that. So I just grabbed that. If anybody asking,
Southern
Stardust Ranch. Yeah. Not the brothel. That's in Nevada. So
that's the bunny.
Yeah, I don't know. But no, I guess
it's down in LA. There's certain counties in Nevada that allow it and others that don't. Biggest is Clark County. I was just down there for a conference. We ended up in Vegas, and I was driving my girlfriend to the airport, and there's prostitutes right out on the corner just listening. Never see that really. Well, in American cities, you kind of have to go into the neighborhoods.
Yeah,
but not Vegas.
Vegas has been legal for a long time.
Oh yeah,
I know. This is, I think, is the brothel, one of the finest brothels in a 3-hour drive. Yeah, it is a thing. But I think the one we're looking for, this one's all over the place. But it was on an episode of, I'm going to plug it, Ghost Adventure Stardust Ranch, and they interviewed the owner, like really in depth, and they had some crazy things going on. So definitely a hotbed, being Arizona, as of course we know. So yeah, I think it's just been interesting. Now it's just there's so many more things I want to talk about. So I'm glad you're coming on August 3rd. People mark your calendars. August 3rd, at least. We'll probably do another one because, I just realized there was something else I wanted to bring you on about. So
we have to book you monthly, Brad.
I know we do.
Before your dates book up too.
Yeah, exactly. We know you're like a hot commodity right now. So.
I got a lot of conferences coming up, and
Well, plug yourself, plug everything. We're coming up.
to Truth this week coming up in Grafton, Illinois.
Okay.
And I think all the names of the conferences, you could look it up on the website. Contact into the Desert, early June. Also, Mount Shasta Summer Conference over the summer solstice weekend at Mount Shasta.
Nice.
Then I'm going up to back to Shasta for the Chronicles of Gaia conference in August.
Oh, right.
And then I've got a Vegas conference, the 5D alien event in September. And then October, I'm flying out to Orlando for the Galactic and Spiritual Seekers conference in Orlando, third weekend of October.
That sounds exciting.
Wow.
Also produced the Weird Street Faire, and we have our date in downtown San Francisco.
I love it.
October 14th. Yeah. And I'm a co-producer of that event. So I got a busy year coming up.
You do.
You're always busy.
You do.
Yeah.
I have to ask you, have you ever heard of America's Stonehenge?
Oh, of course. I've been there many times.
Oh, good. Okay. I was wondering because Dennis was on the show one night and I thought, how the hell did I not hear about this place? It's so bloody close. Yeah. No, wealth of information, but another one of those locations that has a lot of activity. So I just wanted to give it a plug. And if you hadn't heard of it, I said you have, because you do travel around and you do go to these incredible places. And I thought all the information that he had is really one of America's, I'll say, hidden gems. For 50 years, they've had some pretty amazing people go and visit. But it's in a book, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's I've got a whole bunch of stuff on America's Stonehenge here. It's a fascinating site. It really is.
Yeah. And he said he's only uncovered a real small portion of it.
Yep. There's still a lot more to go. And it's older and older than anybody thinks. And it's got all these alignments.
Yes.
It's originally called Mystery Hill, but it was basically a whole megalithic complex up on this hill.
Yeah.
And at this one sighting area, it's a calendar. And that's where the Stonehenge name comes from, because you could actually tell what season of year it is and when the solstices come up over the lintel. It's just like in Stonehenge.
Yeah, it's magnificent. He has sent over phenomenal pictures.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's a cool place.
It is. It is. It's nice to see it on this side of the world. Well, we're already here. Bubbles.
Just one quick thing, Brad. If you have a chance, go on the Outer Realm Facebook page, and you'll find just like the second thing down. It's probably the second or the third post down, and you'll find that clip.
Oh, I would love to, but my Facebook page got hacked at the end of April.
You were naughty.
Trying to get back. No, it wasn't really naughty. Just
everybody's getting hacked.
Somebody
right now.
I figured. Yeah. At least it's not Facebook jail. That's the naughty one.
Yeah, I've been in that too.
Oh my gosh.
I'm no stranger to Facebook jail. Here's a bunch of my images in Sacred Places of North America of America's Stonehenge. And some of the other one on top is. So it's megalithic site. It's really amazing. And then there's all these other beehive chambers in New England that are really fascinating too, made of mortarless, just fitted stones. And then they grow up into these beehive chambers that you can stand up in. And then the capstone is megalithic.
Mm-hmm.
They use the capstone for the passageway and the top of the chamber. The best one is in Upton, Massachusetts.
Right.
So there's just all kind of mysteries. If you guys want to talk about that on August 3rd.
Yes. Because we were going to do this show. And then I sort of slid this in there because we had a request. But I would like to do that on August 3rd. And I will contact you. We'll book you into the fall to do the mysterious forests and missing 411 and things like that. Because I did see you comment on a program on the mysteries of all America's forests. And I thought, my God, there's so much going on there beyond just the missing 411.
Right.
The audience would love it because I don't know anyone who hasn't seen that.
I even beyond that, this show, Mysteries, that like you were a contributor to that. You spoke, quite often commenting on some of these locations. And there's just some weird stuff in some of these national parks.
Yeah.
I mean,
then the mound sites. In fact, when we're in Grafton, Illinois next week, I'm leading a tour out to the Cahokia Mounds, which are nearby where we're doing this conference.
Mm-hmm.
It's not on the schedule, but if you come to the conference, because people are going to have to take their own cars kind of thing, they can't make an official function.
Right.
But I agreed to take people up there. Now, the Cahokia Mounds is one of the last and largest preserved of these ancient mound sites.
Wow.
And the biggest pyramidal earthen mound at Cahokia, the base of this pyramid, four-sided pyramid, is larger than the base of the Great Pyramid in Egypt.
Wow.
So and it was just made by carrying up bucket loads of mud and clay. And packing it together, and it's still there. And
those guys are champions. Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, we're definitely going to do the sacred.
Come on down from Ontario next week, ladies. We'll take a tour of Cahokia Mounds.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind digging into the Mount Shasta. There's a whole other show just by itself on Mount Shasta.
Let's do the mysteries of North America on August 3rd. There's so many places we can talk about.
Okay, I can't wait. Now I'm excited. Well, thank you. We're definitely now at the end of the show. Thank you for joining us again and switching up, topics.
Oh, and I should also say, if anybody wants to get any of my books, signed copies, cccpublishing.com is where you can go for a signed copy. And
so I've got your Brad Olsen website here. Could they link over?
Yes, there are links over.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that there were. So, okay, perfect. Well, thank you for joining us again, and good luck on all of these conferences you have coming up. It looks like you have a busy year ahead, and we will see you on August the 3rd. You will hear from me, as always, after the show or tomorrow, and I will also give you another date, and let's just keep going on until we'll finish up at the end of the year. So get you another spot after August 3rd, if you would be so kind to oblige us.
Well, let's pick a date after August 3rd, and
We shall
set up for the fall.
Thank you, Brad.
I love it. Perfect. So thank you very much, and I will be in touch.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on. Nice talking with you.
Pleasure. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Well, we've come to the end of another fantastic segment here on the Outer Realm. Definitely informative. What can I say? I'm always intrigued by the information. Very versed, and I'm thinking these sacred spots are going to be a really fantastic thing to talk about too. Come August. Yes, tomorrow. See you tomorrow. So big thank you to Brad for joining us. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee for sponsoring us, Dr. Snick and Steve McGinnis. Thank you all very much. Thanks to everybody in chat. You guys are awesome, full of amazing compliments, great questions, lots of great comments. We appreciate you all so much for participating. Tomorrow night, okay, here we rebooked this lady. We were going to have her on before, so all the way from New Zealand for the very first time is Susie Hansen. She is the founding director of UFO Focused New Zealand Research Network. She is a contactee. She is just, again, a wealth of information. We are going to get all kinds of amazing stories and documentation. Really looking forward to bringing her on and introducing her to you all. And I know we're all going to learn something. So until then, we bid you all a good night, and we shall see you tomorrow evening. Good night.